Legends, welcome back to another episode of the Ruck Infringement Podcast Team Preview. This week's team preview is the St. George Illawarra Dragons, and to join me, the man himself, the Mad Dragon, Donny. How you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, really happy to be here and ready to get in and talk all things Dragons, which I'm pretty good at doing.
Mate, it's a pleasure to have you on. Of course, people who may not know you would know you from your Fire Up Dragons fans videos, which we love very, very much. We'll get one towards the end. But do you want to plug the VOD a little bit?
Yeah, so the Mad Dragons podcast, it's grown amazingly in the off season. So we've got 13 panel members, so 13 different Dragons fans that sort of come on at different times. So it's only ever 5 at a time, but we rotate through everyone throughout the year. Every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday from 6:30, preview review show. And just go through and talk everything about what's going on with the Dragons during the week, and catch up with a bunch of different Dragons fans that all have very different perspectives. So there's it's a bit of fun.
That's awesome, mate. And people can just find you at all the normal listening platforms.
Yeah, so live stream on Facebook and also YouTube. We've got Instagram, we've got X.
Perfect.
Don't really have Snapchat or TikTok or any of that, but all the main ones.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome, mate. All right, well, let's get into it. Of course, the St. George Illawarra Dragons preview now. We're going to talk the ins and outs of the Dragons for 2025, and you must be very excited. But let's talk these 2025 ins first. A few to get through. Let's start off. Damien Cook from the Rabbitohs, Clint Gutherson from the Eels, Lachlan Ilias from the Bunnies, Valentine Holmes from the Cowboys, Nathan Lawson from the Australian Rugby Sevens, and Emre Gula from the Raiders. Now, mate, before we get into the outs, let's talk about these ins. Brings a lot of experience to this club, these players in Guffo, Cook, and Holmes. Mate, what are you excited about with these signings?
I guess, I think you look at the gains and the losses next to each other, and we've sort of taken out some of our best players, and that means we're going to completely revolutionise the way that we play. It's going to be a totally different Dragons team in 2025 because it has to be. We've taken away 75% of our scoring options with 2 players. So, it's got to be different. And I think the players we've added, they've got points in them. We saw it in the trials, the 2 trial games. What a guy like Val Holmes is capable of doing in attack. He might be the other side of 30. He's only just the other side of 30, mind you, but he's still a real genuine attacking weapon. The leading point scorer last year. You want to know where Dragons points are going to come from? He's going to be a big part of that. And Damien Cook, a very good attacking 9. Clint Gutherson, good at organising the defence, but he's a great attacking player and creates tries in his own right. So I think we've brought in some really good players that, if used in the right way, can be very effective.
Absolutely. We've seen what they've done over the past few seasons. Mate, let's chat about the 2025 outs now. Now, of course, no lie, the big ones there, Zach Lomax to the Eels, Ben Hunt to the Broncos, but it was also Savelio Tamale to the Raiders, Jack Bird to the West Tigers, Max Feagai to the Dolphins, Alex Tuatavake to the Lee Leopards, Dan Russell to Warrington, Manu Brown released, and Jesse Marski to the North Sydney Bears. Look, mate, couple of fringe players in that lineup, but of course, Ben Hunt, Zach Lomax, the big outs. Were you sad to see them go?
I was sad to see one of them go. Certainly, Zach Lomax. He's a player that I've followed since he was 14, 15, coming through the Dragons junior rep systems. Yeah, always been destined for great things, and to follow a kid from that age to see him get to where he got to last year, I was incredibly proud. And when he decided that he wanted to leave and ended up going and signing with the Eels, that's a massive disappointment for me. Ben Hunt, I I'm not as disappointed to see him go. I've got to be honest. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I think, and I think the Dragons we're a worse team without him, but I think we're a better club. I think we needed to move on from Ben Hunt. I don't think it was healthy. The relationship that the fans had with Hunt and the other players seemed to have with Hunt, it didn't seem like a great relationship, and he was keen to leave, and it dragged on far too long. We probably should have let him leave at least 12 months ago.
Yeah, look, I agree. The drama around Ben Hunt was not good for that club. But, mate, that's it for our ins and outs. Let's jump into our predicted lineups for round one. Now, if you are listening for the first time, what we'll do is we'll give you our 1 to 17 for round one. If they are injured, we'll tell you an alternative there. All right, let's start off with the fullback. Of course, it's pretty obvious, Clint Gufferson. Mate, he locks up that spot pretty easy.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Tyrell Sloan's the incumbent there, but we bought Clint Gufferson for a reason. That's a pretty straightforward one.
Absolutely. On the wings, mate, I've actually got Sloan. I think he might play on one wing, and I've got Tui Pelotu on the other wing. I thought he was really good last year. Are you in the same boat there?
Again, I think the wings, there's actually a lot of competition for spots. We saw in both trials, Sione Finau and Matt Feeney were the two wingers, and Finau scored 4 tries in half an hour on the weekend. I don't know that they've done a lot wrong. Christian Tuipulotu's got a hamstring injury. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be available. Sloan will certainly be in the mix, but again, he had that stress fracture in his foot, and he still didn't look 100% in that game on the weekend in the Charity Shield. So I think there's certainly a few options there on the wings, but I've got Sione Finau and Matt Feeney as the wingers for round one.
Yeah, mate, Finau was fantastic. To score 4 tries in 30 minutes, it doesn't happen much, especially in a Charity Shield. So very, very good. Mate, if we jump into the centres, of course, they speak for themselves, Valentine Holmes and Moses Sully. I don't think there's much competition at the moment there.
Yeah, that's again, it's probably one of the biggest strengths of the Dragons. This is one of the best centre pairings in the NRL, but if there's an injury to one of them, I have no idea who goes into the centres. There's no other specialist centres in our top 30. It's probably Corey Allen, who, he's just coming back from a knee reconstruction, so I don't know whether he's going to be up for it. So, yeah, there's not a lot of depth there, but 2 great centres.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the halves again. Probably speak to themselves. Kyle Flanagan, who I thought was really, really good in the trials. Probably the best I've seen him play in a long time. And Lachlan Ilias, the halfback, mate. Anything different?
No, again, it's a case of what happens if one of them goes down. I don't know. There's no depth in our halves. They're rated by most as probably the worst halves pairing in the NRL, but there's nobody else at the club. So it's there's no other options. It's a real weakness. But as you said, Kyle Flanagan played out of his skin in the trials and has impressed. Brandy Alexander's even saying nice things about the Dragons, which doesn't happen very often. So.
Yeah, they're doing well if Brandy says something. All right, let's jump into the front row now. Of course, Emre Gula, he was an early switch from the Raiders, so he will line up there in my team. 9, of course, Damien Cook. And the number 8 was interesting because I did have Francis Molo. I think I'm going to have Jack DeBellin in my front row now. Have you got the same?
I've got Toby Couchman as the other
nice.
front rower. Again, he started both trials, and I thought, the starting middles basically were getting about 30-odd minutes, and during that period of time, we dominated a pretty strong Roosters middle and in the Charity Shield as well. So I think the 3 middles, DeBellin, Toby Couchman and Gula, I think all 3 of them have sort of done enough to secure the starting spots.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, if we jump into the second row, of course, Luciano Leilua and Jaden Sewer will line up there. Mate, is the depth an issue in the second row? Because I feel like there are a few guys coming through.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of good players. Ray Fatala-Mariner can play on an edge. Dylan Egan, he's looked really good in the trials. Young bloke that was touted last year to get a first grade spot, but physically wasn't ready at 12 months in New South Wales Cup, and I think he may make his debut at some stage. Ryan Couchman can play on an edge as well, so there's a few options there. I think it's probably the strongest part of the club is that second row. We've got a fair few options there, and those starters, they're pretty handy as well.
Both very handy players to have. I tell you, they wouldn't go wrong in many teams. Mate, of course, a lock for yourself, I think you have Jack de Belin. For me, I wasn't really sure who to throw in my lock because I had de Belin in my front row. I was thinking maybe trying Couchman at lock. I'm not too sure how he would go. Toby, that is. But I think I'll follow your lead, mate, and I'll throw Jack de Belin in there.
Yeah. Well, again, lock's an interesting one where I originally didn't have Jack de Belin as the lock. I think his time at lock has come to an end, and he probably plays his best footy now as a prop. But there's just not a lot of options. You're either putting a young bloke like a Couchman in there, or you're going with somebody like Tom Eisenhuth, who I think he's a decent enough defender, but he really hamstrings your attack. So it's an interesting one.
It really is. If we look at the bench makeup now, of course, Jacob Little, he's nursing an injury at the moment, but should be fit very soon. So I'd have Little at my 14. I'd have the other Couchman brother, I think Toby it is, on the bench. I'd have Fatala Mariner, and then that man you said as well, Tom Eisenhuth, would be my bench makeup. Is there anyone I've missed there?
Yeah, so the other one that I've got on my bench is probably a bit of a bolter. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but Locko Tonga is the guy that I've gone for the 17. I think he's an absolute giant of a young fella. I think 15 to 20 minutes off the bench, he can come on, have an impact, get a taste of the top grade, and you can really bend the line. And he's got a big future. So I've gone with him in the 17, but there's obviously a fair few guys that could nab that spot. Hame Saleh and Blake Laurie, and there's a host of sort of fringe middles that could take that spot.
Absolutely. Well, that are our predicted lineups, 1 to 17. Just remember, it is just our opinion. We are not experts. Well, I mean, the Mad Dragon is on the Dragons. I'm not so much. So, if he's wrong, don't come at me. All right, well, let's jump into some Supercoach relevance for the Dragons for 2025. Now, of course, if you are listening, if you are watching on the YouTube, I've got our Supercoach comp code in the description just there, 215716. There is still plenty of time to join, 4 days until Vegas, but let's have a look at these teams. And now, the Dragons are a really interesting one. There's a few players I really like in this team, and there's a few pods as well that I want to talk about. If I just get them up here on my Supercoach app, I won't be a second. So number one, Valentine Holmes, center wing, 784K. Look, definitely a premium option. I think if you want to go premiums in your center wing, he's not going to let you down. He's going to goal kick, which adds points, and can score a try here and there as well. Moving down the list, of course, Clint Gutherson at fullback, 675K. Another great option, I think, with how he's training at the moment for the Dragons. If you did need a fullback that was slightly cheaper than, say, your Teddies, Edwards, Pappenhausen in your Supercoach, then Gutherson's not a really bad shout at all. He won't play Origin probably this season, so you've probably got him over that Origin break as well. So definitely one to think about. Moving down the list, of course, Damien Cook, hooker, 662K. He's always been a very Supercoach relevant player. Damien Cook has been a great hooker in Supercoach for a long time, gets you fantastic points. Again, you're not going to go wrong with getting him in. Just be careful that he may move into 13 at some stage when Little is back fit, may play a bit in that lock rotation. I want to move down a little bit to a couple of mid-rangers now, some players that you might think, I never thought about that originally, but it's actually Kyle Flanagan, 5'8", 403K. Now, as the Mad Dragon said just before, there's no one really chasing his role in the halves at the moment. There's not that much depth. So he's actually got really good job security there at 5'8". If he can stay fit at 403K, it's a pretty juicy option in Supercoach. If you need a cheaper half, if you don't want to go the route of Cleary or Hines or your Metcalfs at the moment, I would look at Kyle Flanagan. There's not a bad option there. He's not in my team currently, as I want to wait for to see what happens the first couple of games. But at 403K, very, very cheap option. Moving down the line a little bit now, we spoke about Ryan Couchman a little bit before. If he does land a starting role, he is very juicy. 265K, cheap as chips in Supercoach. So if he does land a starting role, he is definitely one to look at and wouldn't be owned by very many. So you'd have a very good pod option there. And of course, if we move down even more, Loco Tonga, who we spoke on before, 198K. Now, if he was to land a bench spot, he's going to make you some cash. He might be a slow burn as he is playing off the bench, but he will make you 200, 300K easy, and then you can sell to a premium player later in the season. So he's definitely one for the Black Book to watch out for as well. But don't forget, you can head over to Supercoach or to NRL Fantasy as well. Both comps going. I will put our codes in the description on YouTube and Spotify. You are playing for SC rings, the best Supercoach rings going around. Championship rings, of course. They're very heavy and they're very, very nice. So make sure you jump onto our Supercoach comp and NRL Fantasy comp as well. But Mad Dragon, let's talk about the Dragons now. Let's talk about their season, how we think they're going to go, where we think they may end up. Now, I'll start us off. The Dragons over the past couple of years, we spoke a bit about Ben Hunt, the drama that's arisen there. Even though he was a fantastic player, I feel like the Dragons were a bit subject to it's Hunt's ball and no one else. And I felt like there wasn't a lot going on. If Hunt didn't have the ball, not much was being created, and not by lack of opportunity, but I think by lack of Hunt just wanted the ball all the time. And it seemed that like those players like your Sloans, we've seen the speed that Sloan has, they couldn't really get much of a run outside of Hunt, because for a half, a half that halves usually pass a lot, but he seemed to hold the ball a lot more than others. Now, it could just be what I was watching, but I felt like the other players didn't really get that opportunity with Hunt there. I think having Ilias at halfback will be a lot better for the rest of the team, because they're going to have to work together to get to where they need to go, and they won't have to rely on just one player. Mate, take us through what you think of that and the Dragons season. Where do you think they're going to go well? Where do you think they need to improve? Take it away.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on with your analysis there. Ben Hunt was the focal point of everything that the Dragons did, good, bad, and ugly. And it was all three. It's sometimes all in the one game. But with the halves that we've got coming in now, there's not really a lot of expectations on them. We've had these strike centres. We had Sully for a number of years. We had Lomax in the centres as well. But they were just never getting any quality ball because it was being held up on the inside far too often. Whereas I think the halves that we've got now, they're going to simplify things, and they're going to just catch and pass. They're going to get that early ball out to the strike players that are out a bit wider. That should see some more attacking opportunities created. And I think I could really see Moses Sully being unlocked and having a bit of a breakout season. We know what Val can do in attack as well. Gutherson will chime in and help out the ball players. Cookie in and around the ruck. What sort of role is Tyrell Sloan going to have? If he is on the wing, then you'd expect he's going to have a bit of a roving commission as well. So I think attack-wise, there's plenty to be excited about. And that was one of the things I really enjoyed about the Charity Shield, is that for a number of years, the Dragons, even when they win, they're not an overly pretty team to watch. Whereas I think this year they will be a little bit more enjoyable for the neutral fans to actually tune in and watch a Dragons game, because if nothing else, that they'll throw the ball around and have some fun and hopefully score some points. I think that there's a lot of good to come in attack. Defensively, a a lot of teams have gone straight through our middle the last few years. I think, again, we're struggling a bit with size, but in terms of the middle that we sort of talked about before, of Toby Couchman, Emre Gula, Jack DeBellin, certainly Couchman and DeBellin, fantastic defenders, like really good high defensive efficiency. That should lock up that middle. While they're not the biggest middle third you're going to see, I think that they're going to make their tackles, and it's going to be hard for teams to actually pierce the middle. So then they're heading to the outside. That's probably where the Dragons are going to be a little bit more suspect defensively. So while Val Holmes is a wonderful attacking weapon, he does have his question marks defensively, and the same with Dragons wingers for probably 10 years. They race up and in all the time and leave their winger unmarked. So that's something that, again, the Dragons are going to have to fix if they're going to compete for a top 8 spot.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Now, give us your prediction. Can they make the 8 this year, and how far do they go?
Can they make the 8? Yes, I think they can. I think they're capable of making the 8. I think they've got the squad where they can make the 8. Now, we've got our NRL season preview on the Mad Dragons podcast on Saturday, and I can tell you, I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. I'm actually the one on the panel that has the Dragons lower on the ladder than anybody else. But the way they played in the trials, I think that they might go a bit better than what I have predicted. So I've currently got them finishing 11. It's not that I don't think they're good enough to make the 8. I kind of feel like Shane Flanagan is a bit too conservative, and I'm not sure he's going to be brave enough to trust the kids and the young players, the talent that we've got coming through. I don't know that he's going to trust them and put them into the team, and he may persist a little bit too long with tried and failed players like your Hame Saleh, Blake Lawrie, your Tom Eisenhuths, rather than the Couchman brothers, Locko Tonga, Finel Artus, and guys like that. So, and plus, big question marks over the halves. At full strength, we're probably capable, but 1 or 2 injuries, and I think the Dragons very quickly become a bottom 4 contender.
Yeah, mate. I think they're right on the cusp. I think if we can see the brilliance of Cook, Holmes, Guffo, what they've produced in the past, I think they're right on the cusp of the top 8. I've got them at 10th as well. I've just same thing as you said. For me, I love Flano. I thought he was fantastic at the Sharks, but again, just that conservative approach we've seen in the past, it doesn't work. You see a coach like Craig Bellamy, he's not conservative. Conservative coaches, it doesn't work. You've got to get the most out of your players, and sometimes they need to kick up the arse. And so I think Flanagan needs to be that sort of coach or turn into that sort of coach. But I really like what you said. I think if they click, there's definitely a world where I can see Dragons in the top 8, and that would be wonderful for Dragons fans. I know you guys, you've been around there the past couple of seasons. We've been really pushing to get there. So, look, as a neutral fan who really likes the Dragons, I would love to see them make the 8, but at the moment I've got them 10th. All right, mate, let's talk about our dynamite players for 2025. Now, it can be a rookie. It can be someone who's been at the club for 10 years. Mate, who's your dynamite player for us?
Yeah, I've mentioned him a couple of times. I'm a massive Toby Couchman fan. I think this guy is good enough to play Origin. Not this year. Don't come at me. I'm not saying he's going to play Origin this year, but I think he'll be going well enough this season. I think he's ready for his breakout year. I think he'll be going well enough this year for people to start talking about him as a future Origin player. He's great defensively. He's got an offload that we haven't really seen at NRL level yet. He was leading the New South Wales Cup for offloads last year at one stage. He's got a quick play the ball. He's physically stronger than he was last year. I think he's up for an exceptional year. So, he's my dynamite player.
Mate, I love that. That's a fantastic shout. Mate, for me, it's Damien Cook. Now, quiet season at the Bunnies the past 2 years. And a lot of people, all the calls came out, he's done, he's finished at hooker, he should be more of a lock, what's happened to Cook, blah, 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 blah. Well, as you spoke about in those trials games, Cook set the world alight. I thought he was really electric out of dummy half. It's no lie. We know how quick he is out of dummy half. We've heard the beach sprinter jokes a long time. But I think he's going to be back to that. I really do. I can see a world where Damien Cook is back to his best at the Dragons, playing on the front foot and just getting out of dummy half, taking the quick scoot, scoring a bucket load of tries. So I've got Damien Cook sort of reigniting his career, if we want to put it that way. But I'll name him as my dynamite player for 2025. But that is all we got time for tonight on our Ruck Infringement St George Illawarra Dragons team preview. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, don't forget to check out the Mad Dragons VOD on social media and, of course, live on YouTube as well and Facebook. But as always, I want to reach out and let you know about our sponsors, Jersey Kings Australia. Go to jerseykingsaustralia.com. Check them out. A huge range of NRL 2025 jerseys available now. And if you use our code RUCK, you'll get $50 off. You can buy jerseys for $99. They're selling for $149, and with our code, you'll get it for $99. That's an absolute bargain if you ask me. So head on over to jerseykingsaustralia.com. Check them out today. Of course, our other sponsors, Stay Fancy Eyewear. Check them out as well. Best safety glasses going around. If you use the code RUCK10, you'll get 10% off there. So check out Stay Fancy Eyewear. And then last but certainly not least, Gibson's Country Style Jerky. For the best jerky flavors and variety, go to Gibson's Country Style Jerky. Check them out on social media. If you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off today. Check them out. They are absolutely fantastic. I was chewing on some just before. Don't forget to check out our Supercoach comp and our NRL Fantasy comp. Of course, those codes will be in the description. And check us out on social media. Give us a like, a follow, a subscribe, leave a comment, give us a rate, send us an email if you want. Contact us at the ruckinfringementpod@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. You can ask us anything about rugby league. You can ask us anything about life if you want, but we probably won't answer the life stuff, mainly just rugby league stuff. So if you could leave it at that, that would be wonderful. But until next time, that's the Mad Dragon. I'm Joey. Be good.